Hi everyone, welcome to my live stream video. This is Jenkins, and I'd like to welcome all our Facebook friends in today. I hope you can join me live, and I hope you've told your friends about my live stream. And we're going to just have good fun today painting my daisy lilac painting in a green vase. And let's take a look up here at what I'm going to be working from. And it's just a simple little painting. It's on a 14 by 18 canvas. And this is oil paint. I always use oil paint, although I do sometimes start with acrylic in the background, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that today. But we've got a nice little green vase here, and the vase I used was one of my vases, and it had hand painting of a little lily on it. And you know, you could do the lily on it if you want, or a rose or anything, or just leave it plain and not put anything on the vase, not have it look like a hand-painted vase. And we've got our nice daisies up here and some greenery and our lilacs. But the fun thing about this is our background. It's just not a plain old background with here is spotted color, here is spotted color, here is spotted color. And I'm sure we've all done that before, and I have too, but I wanted to make it a little bit more action, a little bit more movement in the background. So I'm going to show you about how to do that. But first of all, I want to show you a real nifty way of doing a symmetrical vase. Now, when you're painting a still life or anything that has to be symmetrical, even a portrait, if your face, you want it to be exactly the same on both sides. But especially if you're doing vases or pots in paintings, I notice a lot of people on our online class, even though we provided a pattern for them, they still didn't trace it accurately. And when I critique, I had to say, your vase isn't symmetrical. Now, there's a couple of ways you can find out if it's symmetrical. If you don't see it, you know, with the naked eye, just looking at it, you can hold your painting up to a mirror, and that will show you right away. Some people say you can turn your painting upside down and you'll see if it's symmetrical or not. The old mirror trick, we've been doing that for 50 years. That's a good one. But I want to show you how to draw your own vase if you don't already have a pattern of a vase. I want to show you how to draw it and make it symmetrical. And it's really easy. And I just thought of this a couple of years ago. I don't know why. I've been painting for so long and didn't think of this, but here is, well, first of all, here's my pattern that I used for this vase, and it's a pattern that I made and then traced it on here with graphite paper. And I'll explain. You see, I've already got a little bit started here, but I'll explain this. This is really simple what I've done here, and I'll explain this at the beginning what I've done. But here is just, it's going to be a different shape of a vase that I made. So what you do is just always have tracing paper in your studio. And I took a piece of tracing paper and I folded it in half. And then I took, let's see, where is my pencil? And I hope you can see this. Here's the pencil. I had the whole thing drawn first in pencil. I just started this with the pen so you could see it. But I drew half of a vase, just half, right up to this fold line. And then I take my Sharpie pen, a nice black pen. Once you get when you do your pattern in pencil, it's real easy to erase it, to get it, you know, a nice shape. If you don't like the shape, it's easy to erase the drawing in pencil first. Once you get it done the way you like it in pencil, then take a Sharpie and trace over your line. And I'm going to go ahead, I don't think you'll be able to see this, but I'm going to go ahead for a minute and just finish this off real quick and show you what we get. So that's what you would get with your Sharpie. Now if you turn your paper over, you see the pen, the dark pen coming through. So you just trace over that line And just give me a minute here, and I can't do it up on the canvas, but I'm gonna just trace over that line that we see coming through from the other side, and hopefully we're gonna get a pretty symmetrical vase. So you see, I've got it on both sides. Voila, there's your vase. And it should be a perfect symmetrical vase. It might be look a little crooked on camera, but it isn't, because we have our camera at an angle a little bit. But there you go. Isn't that simple? And you can do that with any kind of a pot or candlestick or anything. I think that's so cool. I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner. So that's if you don't have a pattern. And all our online classes and our books and our videos and everything, they usually come with a pattern. So you can just trace right off the pattern. Now to trace, for those, I'm talking to all of you as if you were beginners, and I know we have a lot of people tuning in that are certified teachers or that have been painting a long, long time. And excuse me if I'm talking to you like you're a beginner, but we do have a lot of beginners that do watch us. So here's graphite paper. There's a shiny side and kind of a dull side. It looks shiny on both sides here, but there's a dull and a shiny side. The shiny side goes down, and you place it wherever you want it on your canvas. Tape it. It's best to just tape it up. And find the placement where you want your vase to be, and then tape that. And then just take a pencil and press rather hard with it and trace around the line here. And that's it. And that will give you your nice drawing.
Yeah,
Who?
we call it.
Oh, Gail, hi. Our very, very, very good painter that was our student for years in Carson City, Gail. She's excellent, excellent painter. So anyway, and I want to explain a bit about this video, the live streams. I was going back and I was reading a lot. We have a lot of demos on YouTube, and some of our TV shows, our past TV shows are up on YouTube, plus some of the online paintings that I do, they're up on YouTube. And some people comment and they say they don't like the talking back and forth. Well, they don't know what a live stream is. A live stream is live. People chime in, they watch me, they comment, and sometimes I or Gary, by the way, Gary, my husband's running the camera, we will talk back to the people, and because they're asking questions, and that's the whole point of a live stream. They can go on and make their comments live time, and we can comment back and forth, and if you have questions, I'll try and answer them.
Chuck.
Gary will try and catch some of the questions.
Chuck from Reno.
Oh, hi, Chuck. He was another one of our students that used to come to class with Gail. So anyway, that's what a live stream is. And then we happen to put them up on YouTube so more people around the world can see them, and not just our Facebook friends. So anyway, yeah. So let's see what else I was going to tell about that. Okay, well, anyway, that's what a live stream is. So if you hear us chatting a little bit, that's what we do here. So anyway, let's see, what else do I have to cover at the beginning here? Oh, a really, really brief history for those of you that are new to us or new to YouTube. Again, our demos and some of our old TV shows are up on Facebook. Gary and I have been a team for 40 years, and he has had his full-time professional career for almost 60 years, ever since he graduated from four-year college, Ringling School of Art College, in early 60s. He developed his style of the well-known Jenkins poppy and roses. He developed those early in the 60s. And that was originally his style. Many people all over the world are doing this style now. We also started on TV in 1983, and we were doing our weekly television show until 2015. Long, long time. We did over 450 shows. We started doing our own videos in 1980. We had just about the first consumer video camera, and we started making our own non-television videos. So all our style has been taught, our style that we developed has been taught on TV and in all the books I wrote, videos. Gary was a gallery painter for years before even television in the 70s. So he was doing his well-known floral style. And even though other people say they developed those famous Jenkins poppies and roses, it was him. And the wiggle, wiggle leaves. He named it the wiggle, wiggle leaves and everything. So anyhow, but that's a little bit of our history. I've been painting professionally for, 55 years now. And but not full time until I met up with him when.
You're still beautiful.
Thank you. Oh my, still such a flirt. But I've been with him since 1979, and that's when I started to go on the road nationally to teach. We taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seminars every single week all over the United States. We were traveling for decades and going to 30 states a year teaching. So we have a lot of teaching and television experience. So anyway, I think that, hi Gladys, some of these people are going to be coming back to our semi-private classes, which I'll talk about later. So that's a little bit of our history, and you can go on our website, jenkinsartstudio.com, and you can look up our bios and look and see what we have available. We have a mail order business for the last 35 years with our products and books, and some of our books are still there. A lot of them are out of print. So let's get on with this little puppy. Now, again, this is an 14 by 18 stretched canvas. And if you can't find smooth canvas, we really like to work on real smooth canvas. I used to use Frederick's Portrait Smooth, or Ultra Smooth, but it's very hard to get nowadays, and it's quite expensive. So if you have a really rough canvas and want a smooth canvas, you just take gesso, white or gray, or if you're doing a black canvas, black, and with a foam brush, give it a smooth coat of gesso, let it dry, and then take really, really smooth, fine sandpaper and sand it. And then I do another coat, let it dry, sand it. Gesso is just acrylic, that's all it is. It comes in a bottle. And then I do as much as 3 or 4 coats, and you get a nice smooth canvas. It won't wear down your brushes either. And be sure and sand it with a fine sandpaper. And then dust off all the dust.
Wade Jordan says you look lovely.
I Wade, kiss, kiss. That's my niece's boyfriend. My niece moved here from California a couple of years ago, and she has a boyfriend, and they live just down the street from us. Okay, so now I told you what I was going to do here, and let me go back and show you. I'm going to hold this up if I can, and it's a mess already, and I haven't even painted. Now, another thing, a lot of people Facebook me and say, I want to get ready and paint. Can you post your paints ahead of time? I want to paint along with you. And I have to write back to them and say, I really don't suggest that you paint along with me during the live stream, because while you're painting, I can paint much faster, and then you'll be able to, and you'll be having to make your corrections as you go along, and then while you're making your corrections on one step, I'm 6 steps ahead of you, and then you've missed what I was talking about. So it's really important to watch the video first, maybe a couple of times, and watch it first, and then even take notes maybe, even though you're going to be able to see it all the time or any time afterwards. You're going to be able to see it on our Facebook page, and hopefully we'll get it posted on YouTube. So my paints are dripping down. So I'm going to go through the colors. Now I probably won't use all these colors, and if you don't have all these colors, don't worry about it. It's just a demo. Look at my brown running down. It had some oil in it. It's all running into my white. Oh boy, let's do this fast. Okay, I've got white, titanium. I always use titanium white. This is just gray I mixed up with black and white. Black, I always use ivory black. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow light, cadmium yellow medium, or this can be lemon yellow too. Lemon yellow has a little more green in it. Yellow medium, cadmium orange, alizarin crimson, cadmium red light, cadmium red medium, phthalo red rose. It's either phthalo red rose or rose red, I'm not sure. Dioxazine, I never can pronounce it, dioxazine purple, and this is a magenta. This is optional, so is the magenta. This is King's Blue, one of my all-time favorite blues, but we can mix that if you want. Turquoise blue, ultramarine blue, phthalo yellow green, chromium oxide green, phthalo green or viridian green. They're very similar. They're very bright blue-green. Sap green. This is just burnt sienna again. And my white is turning into burnt sienna there. Whoa, look at that mess. Okay. And then I use medium. Medium is to thin your paint down, your oil paints. And this is about half linseed oil and half thinner, odorless thinner. You could mix 3/4 linseed and 1/4 thinner. It really doesn't matter. And then I use plain terp. It's in here. Thinner. Terp is thinner. Be sure it's odorless and you have good ventilation in your studio. And this is to rinse your brush out. This is to thin your paint. The medium's to thin your paint. You don't want to rinse your brush out and get that all dirty. The thinners for that. Now I have something else here in this little container. And what it is, and I don't always use this, I'm using it today. It's called drying poppy oil. Drying poppy oil. And it's by Winsor and Newton. And it just makes your paint set up and dry a little faster, because basically linseed oil, which we've got in here, that's a very slow dryer. It's one of the few slow drying oil painting mediums that you can get. But poppy seed with this fast dryer in it is real good, and you get real fine detail if you want to do some real fine detail work, or if you're doing portrait work or something and you want the underneath layers to set up kind of fast. So once in a while I dip into that, and I just put it in a little extra container here because I want this to tack up a little bit. Okay, back to our canvas. So what I did was, once it was sanded and gessoed and it's all nice and smooth, before I put the pattern on for the vase, before I did that, I took gesso, gray gesso, and I just did one coat. You can see it's kind of streaky. Normally, if you're going to coat the whole background and you want a solid gray background and you're not going to be painting over it, you would put at least 2 coats on of gesso, of the gray or black or whatever color you're going to use for your background. But I didn't care if it's streaked, so I only put one coat on because we're going to add a lot of colors on top of this. So I put 1 coat of gray gesso. Then I took a little bit of black gesso. Again, this is just acrylic. And I just really randomly brushed a little bit of the darker gray here, here, here. And then I took a little more black into my gray gesso and just darkened it a little here and here. So it's really sloppy. It doesn't matter because it's all going to be covered up. I don't like to paint on a white canvas normally. I always tint my canvas with some sort of an acrylic base tone. It can be any kind of acrylic that you squeeze out of a bottle that's fairly thin. Any color you can put on here: orange, green, brown. Some people do sepia tones with siennas. The main thing is acrylic goes underneath oil paint, not the other way around. It's oil paint goes on top of the acrylic. We call oil paint fat and acrylic lean. So if you can remember, always fat over lean. Fat is your oil paint, lean is your acrylic. Not the other way around, or you'll be in big trouble. Okay, so then once the gesso was dry, very fast it dries because it's water-based. By the way, it's water-based. You clean your brushes out with water. And then the oil paint, of course, we use the thinner to clean our brushes. Ah, my goodness. So this was dry. Then I took my graphite paper. Again, I'll show you that. And for people just tuning in, I do it flat. I put my pattern on flat, lay it down flat on a table. Then I put the graphite. In this case, I used black. There is also white graphite. If you're doing a black background, you use white graphite to make your white drawing show up on the black. But the black showed up on this gray. So you put this down, place your pattern over it, sketch it off, and you'll have a nice drawing. So, okay, let's get going. So again, let's take a look if we can, if Gary can shoot the camera over there. I'm going to explain some brushes as I go along. I don't want to take the time to show all the brushes. I usually work with a million brushes at once. So anyway, this background, we've got some nice cool colors up in this corner with the grays and blacks and purples down here. And then some nice warm yellows and pinks. And the reason I think people like this painting so much, or any painting with certain color schemes, color attracts people. But you have to learn to use color correctly. And these nice cool colors, they are, I don't know if you call it balance out, but they go well with the warm colors. Accentuate. There we go, Mr. Master Jenkins. Accentuate. The cool colors accentuate the warm colors. And then, of course, we've got our complementaries with our pinks, which is in the red family, and then the greens, which is the complementaries. And the semi-complementaries are the warm yellows with the purples. So it works, but people have a hard time. I think the hardest time, they learn the brush strokes and they learn the technique to do the techniques, but they don't know composition. They don't know composition, and they don't know color when they're starting out. Some people never do figure out how to do it. And that's really important. They just plop leaves anywhere and plop a tree or a mountain or a bush here, and leaves floating around here, and sky here, and they don't know composition, and that's something that's very important. Or they use really gaudy, garish colors when they're trying to be a softer painter and don't want the gaudy colors. Some people do, and that's a real nice style too, but you have to use color properly and get yourself a color wheel. Very important to work with a color wheel. And so that's what I try to teach people in our books and videos and everything, is color and composition and design. So this is just a simple design. Normally if I was doing a still life and setting up a vase with some other elements in it, I would place the vase off center. This is pretty much center because it's the only main element in here. And so I just put it in the center. But normally, if you're setting up a still life, try to set it up in front of a drape. You see this black board we have. We use that a lot, and then we put a drape over it, and then we'll set up our still life on a table and then shine a light on it, and then you get a direct light source. On this painting, we really don't have much of a direct light source. Maybe here on the vase, we've got some bright light, and on a few of the daisies, but it doesn't matter. I'm just mostly doing just what we call a bounce light, where it's bouncing all over. In nature, out in a garden, you have bounce light. The sun is filtering through all different flowers and all through different bushes, and you can't see a direct source light sometimes on flower gardens. And we call it bounce light, where you're just bouncing the light all over the place, and that's okay. But if you're doing a really tight still life, kind of an old world look, which I love. The backgrounds are usually very dark, and they put a light on it and shine a direct, strong light on one side of the still life, and that's really a beautiful way to paint. But we're going to start painting a lot looser today. So I'll mention my brushes as I go along. You see this? Oh, this is what I use. Good luck. Pick one. Doesn't matter. Now, I just like to have a lot of them here because it's fun to use a lot of brushes, and you don't have to clean your brushes so often, too. I mean, you can change brushes in between. So, I explained this part with the acrylic, and then I just went in with a little bit. Now this time I went in with oil to do the base. I started with my oil, and I'm going to be using oil paint from now on. The rest of the painting's oil. And I used sap green with a little bit of the phthalo green mixed in it, and I did the vase. Sap green and phthalo green, and I just blocked in the whole vase. And then I've got a little bit darker here and here and here, and I just added a tiny bit of black to that green mixture, and I blocked in this area with the black. And then I took a little bit of turquoise, very, very little bit, in with the green, and I just made a little lighter area right here. I don't know if you can see it, but we're going to get a lot more highlights on this. This is just a base tone. So we're going to start with the background. I'm going to use a large brush. I like to use a large brush for the background. This is a flat, comes to a good chisel, has to come to a good chisel, and it's soft synthetic hair. This is one of our brushes, one of the Jenkins brushes. And so I'm going to dip into some medium, and I'm going to go down on the palette. And I mixed up a little bit of a gray here. Gary's going to try to go down to the palette, but he might not get down to the palette every time because it's so much jumping back and forth. So I mixed up a little medium with my gray that I had mixed up. We'll see if this is dark enough. I want to just cover this because it's all streaky. Okay, I'm going to make that darker. It looks like it's dark down on the palette, but when you get up here over this acrylic, it looks almost white. So I'm going to add more black, until I get something that I want a color. There, that's a good color. Okay, so I'm crisscrossing the paint. Crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. And get it all covered. You don't want any of the canvas showing through, or you don't want much of the base tone showing through. Now, one thing when people, they say, how do I know how much medium to use or how much not to use? You don't know. You just go by feel.
Jim, later.
Hi, Jim. Jim's from Illinois. Gary used to teach for him and his wife. So medium, I just dip the corner into my brush. I don't saturate the whole brush. And then I go into my paint and I pull some paint aside. Like, this is very important. I see people, they'll go into their paint and just take a blob and then go up on their canvas. And they get real thick paint. They wonder why they get thick paint. Well, because they've got thick paint on their brush. So I take the color aside, then smooth it out, pull it out away from the pile, and smooth it out on my brush. And then knock the excess off. If there's any built up around the metal ferrule, just knock it off. Knock it off. Okay. Knock it off, everyone. And let's see where else. And we have sort of a curve here. This paint, if you add a little medium to it, now some paint's stiffer than others, and you have to add a lot more medium. Some paint brands are drier than others. Not drier, softer. So then you add less medium. You just go by what feels good. And I see some down here. I'm going to use that same gray down here. Now I probably won't get all the colors in this background that I have in the original, because we would be here for a month. And I'm going to blend a little bit into here, maybe a little darker. I'm just adding more black to my white to make a darker gray when I want it darker. But yeah, everybody would have to pack a lunch or pack dinner to watch me paint. Although I like, hi Lynn. Lynn's our best friend from Florida. Yeah, I like to do the longer videos. Oh my goodness, when we were doing TV for all those years, we had to do all those paintings on TV and that are in the TV books in 25 minutes. And oh lordy, lordy, that was not fun. It was hard to do. I'm adding more black. I want to get dark down in this corner right here. I didn't even wipe out the light out of my brush. It doesn't matter. I just want to get a nice darker color down here.
Love you, Catherine. You rock.
Oh, I rock. At 76 years old, I don't rock anymore. I sort of crawl. Yeah. I'm going to add a little bit of that mauve, that dioxazine purple, into the dark black, the dark gray. And let's get some over here, just for fun. Just for fun. Let's add a little over here too. I don't like to do anything too simple. You know, if sometimes my paintings look a little too hard, we welcome beginner and intermediate and advanced students in our classes always, for all those years that we taught. But if it looks too hard, just go for it. Try it. It's only canvas and a little paint. Challenge yourself. Don't keep painting simple stuff over and over, year after year after year. That's so boring. It's great when you're learning and it's fun and people teach it all over, but do something that challenges yourself, and wow, you might come out with something really, really good. You never know. And if not, you just wipe it off and start over. I'm getting really dark with my black down here, almost straight black, because you have to set the vase down. Another mistake is people will square off the bottoms of their vases or pots. Now this one looks like it's flat, but when I get the gold trim on here, I'll show you. We're going to make it a little more rounded. It's always slightly rounded. It drives me insane to have these pots that people do. Even when they don't have a curve here, they just come down and then they have a pointed corner and then they go straight across. Can't stand that. It drives me nuts. So please don't do that, anybody. You don't want to drive me any more crazier than I am already. Okay. So if we feel we have to darken more, we'll just keep adding black with a little mauve and just keep going a little darker, because we're going to lose some of this dark when we put the lights on. Why do we have it darker on the corners? Because we don't want your eye to go off, or the viewer's eye to go off the corners with this light color. We want to keep it in here where all the bright lights is going to be. You know, we don't want people to look at your paintings and something leads them off the edge, and they go and it's like an arrow shooting toward the next person's painting on a wall where they're hanging or displaying, and then they go and buy that painting. Because like people will put a stem or leaves or stems coming right down to the corners, right here or up here. I see that all the time. Well, it's like an arrow leading your eye off here, leading your eye off here, over to the next person's painting, and then people will buy that painting. You don't want that. Okay, so I think that's about the only place we really have the gray. Now we're going to get really crazy and start mixing all kinds of things. This is why it's best not to paint with me when you're doing the first go around, because you'll miss a lot. Now everything in all this area here, I'm up here, okay. All this area here and here has white added to it, a lot of white, or a lot of very light gray to tone the colors down. So I'm taking white. I'm going to start with white and ochre. And then maybe I'll add a little bit of turquoise, which is going to make it a little kind of a greenish ochre, but very little. Turquoise is very strong, so I just dip the corner of the brush in. And the paint spreads really nice on on this smooth canvas. Now, if it doesn't spread enough, add a little more oil to it. So it's pretty light there, and where else? Maybe I'll shoot some of this. I'm just going to jump all over on this background, about right there. We get a little more color. I'm just adding more pigment, more of the ochre and turquoise to the white. And we'll get a little more. Whoop, not enough. It's deceiving. On the palette, it looks like there's a lot of color, and then you come up here to the gray, because I'm working on a white palette, and the gray, it doesn't look like anything. And maybe, and let's go and add a little orange to that mixture and get our colors a little more intense. Oh, that's too intense. Okay, just add more light gray or white to that to lighten it up. There we go. Now, when you come up to a color, like say over here, we're going to go into this color here. We're going to start over here. Don't just put a spot of color on and then go into another color and stop and say, oh, I don't want to mess into that color. I don't want to bump into that one. Doesn't matter. We want soft colors, one blending into another. And I want to get a little more color in this area, so I'm just adding more orange, maybe a little cad yellow medium, maybe a little bit of cad yellow light, and get something more intense there. It's just a mess. Now remember one thing, your painting has to go through the ugly baby stage first. There's always going to be stages like this. You think, what in the world is she going to make out of that? Well, maybe nothing. Maybe it'll stay ugly. I don't know. But seriously, you have to go through different stages with your painting. And and then you'll see it'll all come together, hopefully, for you. It does take practice. I'm just scooting around. I added some sap green to that yellow orange. Now remember, I have a lot of white in here. This is all the colors are soft. And let's just play around. It's going to take me forever if I try to match every color. I'm just dipping into the yellows, the oranges, the greens, the blues, all with a lot of white. And pretty soon I'll get into the pinks. Now I'm going to scoot around this vase as carefully as I can with the big brush. You could get in here with a little brush and do it. It's easier, but I don't want to change brushes right now. I come down here and I'm going to work right in to where we put that gray. And then I'm going to wipe off the brush and take some of that gray and work that back up into it, so it all just blends together. Now I had several layers on this background. This is just the first layer. I have other colors and other brighter layers and accent colors. And let's see where else I want the yellow. I think that's enough. Now I'm going to rinse off my brush a little bit and go into our phthalo red rose. That's a
lady from Italy.
Oh, welcome Italy. That's a long ways away. Yeah. I hope some of you that are new to us will watch us on YouTube. Like I said, a lot of our things are on YouTube. Okay, this is orange.
Lady
And
wants to know.
question? Okay.
She has to leave, and where can she
Yeah.
see the video?
On our Facebook page, you can see it. Our videos are always posted on this Facebook page later on, actually in a day or so, or maybe right away, depends on when Gary can post it. But we leave our videos on the page, our live stream. And then eventually, within the next couple of weeks, it'll go up on YouTube. So you can always check either Catherine Jenkins, search Catherine Jenkins or Gary Jenkins on YouTube. Now this is that phthalo red rose with a little bit of orange and a lot of white, remember. And this is still just one layer, one base tone, or the very beginning base tone. And I'm going kind of an up and down stroke here, up and down and then across. South Africa, wow. I'm honored. And I'm going to shoot a little bit, echo some of this color over here. Still an ugly stage. It's fun to do all these colors though. It's really, really fun. There's a lot in this background. Now, of course, you don't have to make your backgrounds this intricate, or, I mean, you could just do some nice soft colors here and there and then blend out with a blender brush. But I want to show you how to do something a little more complicated. Now I took that pink color with the orange in it, and I added a little bit of sienna. Very little because it's very strong. And I am going to leave a definite shape of a curve there. I'm going to softly blend it into the yellow. And then now that I have all these nice colors on my brush, I can just go, on the palette, I can just go and work one into another, pick one up and then another and then another. And it's really easy that way. A little pink here. So what I want is just to get some movement in this background. A little bit of movement. Sometimes I use a crisscross stroke, sometimes an up and down stroke, sometimes a sweeping curve stroke. It'll all make sense in a little bit. Going into my sienna again and my phthalo red rose with, of course, a lot of white. We can even pick up some of that magenta maybe. And let's go in here and get a little bit darker in places. See if I can get my hand out of the way. Using magenta and phthalo red rose and getting a little bit stronger, backing off on the white a little and getting a little, oh, that's strong, isn't it? Just wipe that off a little bit, add a little white, not as much white, and then I want a stronger color here. When I blend it into all the other colors, it'll work out. That color will work out. And back to my sienna a little bit with the pink in it, and over here. Again, you could scoot around this vase. I did the vase a couple days ago, but normally if you're doing this all in one sitting, your vase would be wet. So I did it because I wanted it to tack up a little bit, this green. So when I do scoot around this vase, it's not going to smear all the green into everything. Go back into the pink. So many colors. Calm this down a little over here. Again, we're going to be putting more layers on here. Back to my light gray. And I'm going to tie this together with the dark gray and the pinks. You don't have to be real neat with this. And where else? Up here maybe. But with these nice large soft brushes, that's what makes it so fun, because it's so easy to blend everything. And I'm going to cross cross blend this a little, like this way, and then down. And now we've got some greens in here. I'm going to go into my chrome oxide green again, into the yellow mixture, just a nice soft green, maybe a little bit more yellow. And let's get some in here. And scoot around in here. I know it looks strange right now. You can stroke one color over another. If you feel you want more green over some orange area or over a pink area, just don't be afraid to stroke one over the other. And let's see, where else? I'm going to go back into my pink, put a little pink up here. It's just a feeling. You just have to go with your inner feeling and experiment. By all means, you have to experiment. Because if you don't try something, it's like eating food. If you don't try something, how are you going to know whether or not you like it?
Not me.
Not you. Now we're going to have a drape down here. So this hard edge here I'm not worried about right now because we're going to have a nice pretty drape there. So that will soften that edge, and the same with over here. And where else? I'm just using a dirty brush with some gray on it. So I'm just giving you examples of colors to use. You could try any of your own combinations. Now we have a blender brush, very soft hair. We used to call them bunny brushes back in the day, back in the 70s, because they had such soft hair. If you want to pull one area together, soften some of your brush strokes out, then you can use the bunny brush. And I'm going to pick up a little of that King's blue and make a light blue-gray. Maybe even add a tiny touch of the turquoise. And let's get some more blue right up in here. Whoa, that's a pretty color. I love King's blue. Now, if you don't have King's blue, you can make it by using mostly white, a little bit of ultramarine blue. That's this blue here, King's blue. Mostly white, ultramarine blue, and a teeny, teeny touch of the purple. Very teeny touch, but mostly white. And that will make something very similar to King's blue. But the turquoise blue, that's really a good one to have. I'm going to put a little of this blue over here. That's a good one to have in your paint box. All these nice baby colors is what I've got. Hi, Mel. Mel's another one of our very good friends. Mel and Lynn Holcomb they're both in Florida, and they're our good friends from way back in the 80s when we lived in Florida. Okay, so now I'm not going to finish this area off right now, but I am going to go in with a little bit of an accent colors. If Gary can pan over with the camera a little bit, accent highlights. And that's these guys here. See those little colors bouncing around? There's a few brighter ones over here. Maybe up here we'll accent this curve a little. So that, you use your paint a little drier because you've already got wet paint on here. So you want to use your paint a little drier and not quite so wet. When I say wet, that means medium added to it. And I'm going to accentuate this little curve right there. You see that? And let's put some of our pink behind it. So fun to do these kind of backgrounds. And then I'm going to take the blender Soften one into the other. Got a little gnat or something on there. Okay. Boy, you guys from back east, I heard you have had a horrendous winter this year. Really horrible. I feel for you because, gosh, it's been getting down into the 20s at night here and the low 30s, and we think that's cold. And by the way, I'm in Sedona, Arizona, where we live in Sedona, Arizona. And we think it's really cold. It actually froze some of my plants. But nothing compared to what you guys, you can all move to Arizona. It's gorgeous here. We live up in northern Arizona, or central, so it's not as hot as Phoenix in the summer. Believe me, it's not. It's about 10, 15 degrees cooler. Okay, I'm just bouncing around, playing around with my siennas and my pinks. And then I'm going to get a little brighter pink, less white, and I'm going to go right in this area. No, let's take that back. I'm going to add more white. Light bubblegum pink. And we're just gonna, oops, didn't, see that's where I didn't mix the paint into my brush. And you get streaks. So you don't want that. So we're gonna, now I'm just hitting on the downstroke here and there. And I'll be blending this out in a minute. Looks crazy, I know, looks like a jigsaw puzzle. Maybe a little bit more accent right there. Now when I painted this original, I took more time with it. I didn't do it this fast. Work that down into that color. I'm going to pick up a smaller brush. This is like about a 1/2 inch flat, very soft, and take some bright yellow, light yellow, excuse me, maybe a little bit of medium yellow mixed into it. And we're going to hit some, whoop, where's my cameraman? There he is. I'm going to hit some little strokes in here. Maybe add a little orange and yellow medium and pick up some right like this. You just, when you do things like this, you just experiment. You just go with your gut feeling. And maybe a little bit more over here. But if you were to put all these colors on and not blend or soften them out or work one into the other, that's where it would be bad. That's where, you know, you'd have all these crazy patchwork of colors around, and it would be very hard looking. So whatever you do when you're working with a lot of color like this, keep it soft and subtle and keep the colors fairly blended together. This is that yellow orange again. And I'm going to soften this out by cross blending it a little with my blender. This still isn't the lightest or brightest stage though. There will be more. It's not the final, and I'm not going to take time to go around my vase really, really well. And we've even got some greens in here. Maybe some phthalo yellow green with yellow. And get a brighter green in here. So if Gary can come close, just now this isn't finished down here, but I want you to see what I've done down here. If Gary can get kind of close. And see that I just haven't blended all these colors together. You see how they, one sort of, it's layering. One layer lays on top of the other. If you want more white, add more white. And this is where most of the action is going. We'll be putting some little orbs in here. If you guys, some of you guys that like orbs, we do. Jumping over to the other side here. And That'll be some more accents in the background. But all of this is not going to be taking center stage. Right now it is, but it won't be when we get all our flowers and the vase in and everything. Whoops, that's a little too bright. Soften, work that color out a little bit. This will not be the main focus, all these colors, once we get everything else in. It'll just kind of set back into the background. And I just keep looking at the original to see where I want to add more colors, and I'm just grabbing anything actually. And I want to work it into the gray down here. And soften it out. Take your finger and even soften that bottom out a little bit. Like I said, there'll be a drape there. Okay, so that is not the finished background, but for now we're going to leave it and we're going to get on this area here. And I'm going to sketch in where I think I want my daisies. And I'm just going to use a little bit of medium on the brush and go into my white. And I'm going to just sketch where some of the main daisies are going to go. Let's go right here. And now when daisies are turned to the side, or any round, basically round flower is turned to the side, it becomes more oval. Or if it's turned at a 3/4 view facing up or whatever, it doesn't become round. It's more of an oval shape. And you don't want a bunch of little round pinwheels. And maybe there's one here. We don't have to sketch all of them, but I'll just sketch some of the main ones here.
Are they still out there watching?
Are you still awake? Are you still alive? Okay. So that's where, and then we're going to have some more over here too. So I'm going to stay with my 3/4 inch, or no, sorry, not 3/4 inch brush, my 1/4 inch. Oops, blend that out a little. It's the little flat, like a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to mix up a sap green with a little sienna. Now I never use sap green straight, never, never, never. You can either darken it because sap green is transparent, very transparent. So sometimes it comes out not so dark. So you can darken it with a little sienna or some ultramarine blue, or let's see, crimson. Sometimes use all of those colors in with the green, but mostly green. To get a dark, you could add a little bit of black, but I prefer to use the other colors. And we're going to start out here and get very dark. It's probably going to look almost black to you, but it's very, very dark. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a lip on the top of that vase. I'm just using the edge of my brush. Now my paint has medium in it, so it's flowing easy. So it looks a little black, but it's got those dark colors in. Because
they're still watching, they're just not saying anything.
Okay, any questions? Does anybody, while we're doing the live, have any questions? And Gary can relay I can't see the questions on my monitor, but Gary can relay them to me. No questions? Oh, it's starting to rain. I can hear the rain on our skylights in our studio. So I just crisscrossed in there and a little bit on top of where this daisy is. I keep the darkest colors down here for the base tones and then go a little lighter as you come up. The darker color weights the bouquet down into the vase a little bit. Now, I'm not going to leave a hard, this is really important, I'm not going to leave a hard edge with that dark against the white daisy. So I'm going to just take very little paint, wipe most of it off my brush, and just kind of mess up that edge because it's easier to blend into a soft edge than a light edge, a hard edge, excuse me. And maybe we'll bring a little up here. So again, we're still at the messy little puppy stage. Oh well, it's fun. And maybe here. So you see, I'm just messing up, going into where those daisies are going to be. And I'm going to shoot a little bit of dark under this one. And maybe we'll just come up all in here. Soft edge, soft edge. So now as I come out, I'm going to be adding some white to that green and maybe a little bit of phthalo yellow green to that dark. I'm going to add it to the dark, and I'm going to just come out here and just work it right into the dark and just slowly start, and I'm crisscrossing, coming out into a little bit lighter green as we come out. And maybe over here, a little bit here. Keep it loose out here. Don't come out and just, you know, paint like this, real hard little squares and leave hard edges. Keep it super loose, super loose. Sometimes when you get the whole painting done and then you realize, well, you didn't have enough darks in between the flowers, then I go back, I'll show you how to go back and accent some darks back in there. So, okay, maybe just a little bit of the lighter green up here. So you see how loose that is. Now in a minute we're going to go into our lavender colors, or when I say lavender or purple or mauve, I just mean dioxazine. I just don't like to say that word all the time. I get purple. I say purple or mauve. There's other purples. There's just all kinds of mauves out there. There's Theo Violet. I think it has more red in it. This one is a very blue, very dark purple.
It's good to buy 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, I always work with 3 or 4 greens on my palette at least. I always work with 2 or 3 yellows, 2 or 3 oranges and reds. I don't just use 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 green. Your painting will get very, very boring that way. Okay, now we're going to go into purple, our purple, and we're going to start out kind of dark. I'm going to add maybe a little bit of phthalo red rose with it, but I'm not adding any white to it. And here we go over here. See how beautiful color that is. Oh, love it. Love it, love it. Now, if you don't like your background, you can make your bouquet as full as you want and maybe cover up most of your background. So, you know, it's up to you. It's very flexible. I'm going to add a little ultramarine blue to that purple to make it even darker in some places. Ooh, look at that. And again, I'm crisscrossing. I'm working it right. I'm dabbing right over some of the greens. See, I'm not just coming up to a green and the green and stopping. Throw a little bit in there.
Playing with color is fun.
Yep, playing with color is fun. Again, the purple, the ultramarine blue, and if you wanted a little more pink, add a little bit of the phthalo red rose just to get a little bit in this area. And how about up here? I'm going to soften that edge a little bit too. And then, now as we come out, we've got some lilacs over here. So I'm going to use the phthalo red rose and white and add just a little bit of that purple mixture we had for the dark. Add a little bit of that to the phthalo red rose and white. So we get a nice light pinky purple. And we're going to come up here and crisscross this. Go right over that background color, no problem. See how one color just blends into another. And we use silk flowers a lot because we don't have, in the desert here, we don't have a lot of flowers. We have a rose garden here, but that's the only thing we have. So I either buy flowers at the market or I purchase a lot of these silk flowers from time to time. So that's what I'm going to be painting, the illusion of these little lilacs. We used to have lilac trees in California and Oregon, and oh my gosh, I loved them. I miss them so much. So you see how one color is just mushing into another? Again, we're still at the ugly stage. Oh gosh, I wish we didn't have to go through the ugly stage. But you know, so many people, when they're starting to paint, they go through this ugly stage and then they get disappointed after a little while. And they say, well, it's not looking good. And then they try to correct it and try to make it look better at this stage. And it's still, they say, it's not looking good and I'm getting really disappointed. And then they go on, put it in the closet or whatever. But you have to be patient and know that it's going to go through this. It's going to go through this stage. And I would love to, you know, just wave a magic wand when I'm painting and after 10 minutes in say, oh gosh, it's looking beautiful and I love it. That very rarely happens. I mean, although you can have a beautiful lay-in for your base tones, but so you see how soft everything is? Now I'm going to take my blender. Now this is where you have to work very light touch, very, very light touch. And this is what's neat to do wet on wet, because this is going to soften in to that wet background. You see how it just softens right in over here? And from time to time you have to wipe off your brush.
You can use your finger.
Yeah, you can use, Gary uses his finger, but I don't want to get paint all over my, when I get it on my hands, then I get it on my clothes, then I get it on my face.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free. And maybe work some of these strokes together here. There's going to be a lot of layers in here over this dark. The dark's just barely going to be peeking through. So maybe bring this up a little higher, up here. But you want these edges really soft. Another thing, you don't want to have all your flowers just come out to an even edge. Some come out farther than others, some dip in, you know, in the bouquet, tuck into the bouquet more. Bring some out here maybe. So I think we got enough dark. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take some of the, there's a color I have on my palette. It's very close to where I was mixing the grays, and I forgot to mention it, I think. And it's right here. It's a very light gray. This is where I was mixing those dark and light grays. But it's called Ice Blue, and Shabbat by Richardson's sells it. And it's what it is, it's got a teeny touch of blue in it. You could probably mix it with just white and black and blue. And you could even put some King's Blue into it because it's bluer than just black and white. But it's called King's Blue, and it is the greatest color to do shadows with, and or add color to it and do some shadows under white objects with. So I'm going to take a little of that aside to a blank space on my palette. I'm almost running out of space, and I'm going to add a little bit more King's Blue to it. That's that Ice Blue and King's Blue. It's just a light blue gray. And let's see, what color? Nope, I'm going to add, it's not showing up that much, so I'm going to add a little turquoise to instead of the other blue. So we've got a little turquoise and gray. And you can either use that ice blue as a base color or just mix up a little bit darker gray with it. But it's blue-gray is what it is. So we're going to block in where some of these daisies are going to go, right here. I hope that's showing up against this gray background. And up here, got a daisy. Now this is very, very loose, and I'm just blocking in the whole thing. Maybe make it a little darker so it'll show up a little more. Well, not dark enough. It's really deceiving. We like to work usually on a gray palette, but today I'm working on a white palette, and the color looks different on a white palette than when you go up here against a gray background. It's very deceiving. You think it's dark enough on the white palette, and it's not. Oh boy, come on. Where are you? I know you're in there somewhere. There, that's a little darker. So I'm just filling in the whole area where I think those daisies are going to go. And we got another one here. Now this is where I'm going to pull the outside surrounding colors into it. See that? So it's tinting with the purples, and it's tinting with the greens. And we have another one here. I'm going to make this one, I'm going to add more black to that one because I want him darker, because he's sort of tucked underneath, and this little baby, he's not going to be the showstopper. He's going to be supporting actor underneath everybody, kind of in shadow. So we'll make him a little darker. And let's see, we have another guy here. And you can vary the blue. Sometimes you put more turquoise in with your gray. Sometimes you put more, what was I gonna say? More of the king's blue. Don't always just use the same color. Now remember, when these guys are turned, they're a little bit more oval shape. Okay, still very, very loose. Don't just block in tight little circles. That's what everybody does. After those thousands of classes all over in the United States and Germany and everything for years, everybody sort of makes the same mistakes. It's you're all kind of predictable sometimes, but that's okay, because I know you're just learning, and we love to have beginners in class. I love to see what our beginners come up with. Sometimes you really surprise me. It's amazing.
Sometimes they do good and they don't know it.
I know, that's what's weird, is sometimes you're doing really good in class and you don't think you are. And of course, back in the days, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, when we were traveling all over the place, we would have to take, because our sponsor would fill up our classes, our TV sponsor, and we would be taking between 15 and 30 people a day in class, and we'd be finishing a painting, and every day finishing a painting. Once in a while we taught a 2-day painting, but very seldom. They wanted us to move around. We'd go to 5 states a month. We were out on the road 3 weeks out of every month, teaching all over the United States, flying all over. We lived in California, we lived in Florida, we lived in Oregon, and we were flying all over the place. Let's see, I think there's another one. Well, there's going to be another one down here, so I'm going to throw him, blend that out a little, throw him down here. Keep in mind that these are very, very loose. Very loose. And then we're going to have another one drop down here too. I hope I don't forget that one. So I think we basically got most of them in that we need. And again, I might darken just a little with the black in the gray, in that light gray we had. And darken just a couple more. Especially out here against this gray background. Okay. If you want more blue, just put more blue. Oh, there's blue. Have a little blue, Catherine. That's what's so neat. I love oils because you can just mess with them and just, go over them and over them. Now a lot of people paint acrylics, and you can do our style in acrylics, but sometimes you just can't get the softness no matter how hard you try. I'm just adding more blue in here and there. Okay, so that's basically the placement for our daisies. We're going to leave that, and let's start some flowers on those lilacs.
It's nice that you show all this, because some videos, they start out with this already done.
Yeah, I'm going to cut in here a little bit. I'm going to show you later how to cut in between petals too. So see, we're still very soft. Now, before I go into the little flowers, I'm going to get a little darker purple, a little bit darker, and just because I just know that I'll lose it. If you don't get your darks dark enough to begin with, you're going to lose them when you start putting your white flowers on. And a lot of people say, well, how come I lose my darks under my big poppies or roses or anything? It's because their base tones weren't put on dark enough to begin with. And so that's very important, to get your darks in dark enough. And sometimes, no matter how dark you put them in, we still lose them. So you see, I've just got different shades, different values of
Judy says she
colors.
loves this paint.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I don't like to be sitting here. I used to stand, don't anymore, too old. Don't like to be sitting here and nobody's watching TV. I always knew for the years we did TV that people were going to be watching you, at least a couple. So, okay, so it's still very soft. So now there's two ways you can take like your 1/4-inch brush flat, or you can take a filbert. A filbert is just rounded. It's still a soft synthetic brush. It's got rounded hairs, like they call it because of a filbert nut, the shape of it kind of. And I make small daisy petals with either the flat or the filbert. Same thing, you can do sunflower petals and everything with either one of these brushes. Petra, Petra's a beautiful painter. She was here for a semi-private class. She's a gorgeous painter. She took our online class, and I have to say they post all their paintings on the private Facebook page for me to critique, and I have to say she was just about the best one of we've got about 300 people signed up so far. I'll tell you more about that at the end, but she was about one of the best painters on there. She's a gorgeous painter. Okay, so I'm going to mix up some white, just white, because I know it's going to pick up. Well, I'll put a little pink. That's that phthalo red rose, or the magenta, and I don't want it pure white. Now these little guys, I know in one of my videos on TV I said, I don't know how many petals lilacs have because I never looked that close at them. And I said, they might have 5 and they might have 4, but I don't know. And somebody corrected me and he said, you don't even know how many petals are on the lilacs? And like I'm really dumb. Well, sometimes I'm dumb. But I said, it's really not important to me exactly, but I did find out they do have 4 petals, so who cares, 4 or 5. We just want them to look like lilacs. Well, these, if you were to do a full facing forward flower, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4.
For sure.
So it's press down, lift up, heading basically toward a center point.
Barbara from France.
From where?
Right.
Oh, Barbara.
Right.
She's another beautiful painter. These girls are certified teachers of ours in Europe, and Barbara's from France, and she's been here twice in the United States and coming back again this fall to our semi-private classes. And I can't believe our teachers are coming from clear over in Europe to our classes in Sedona.
But they've broken through and gotten into the wonderful world of color and brushwork, which is where it's at.
Okay, so there we go, another one. Now, some of the petals are longer than others. Some of them are shorter than others. And so we make a few just, you know, really loose, really, really loose. Don't want little stars. And then we make some that we don't show the whole flower. We don't have to show the whole flower. Maybe you'll have one that's just like that. Maybe another one. And I don't count 4 all the time. I don't like to be that's I don't know. I want to say sterile, but I don't want to be that stringent.
You lose the mystery if you show it.
Yeah, and so I'm just going to plunk around. Now the main thing is overlap these flowers, group them together. I'm just staying with that light pink because it's picking up some of the purple. I'm staying with that. Overlap them. Don't say, okay, here's a flower and then leave a space, and here's another flower and leave a space. I just mush some of them together. If you pick up too much purple on your brush, just keep wiping off your brush. And now these are not the most highlighted ones yet. And as I come down into the dark area, I get a little darker. I let up on the gray, on the white a little bit. And in here, just let them fade away. You can get some, just use more of the phthalo red rose and white, and not so much white, and get some a little bit, maybe more pink. More pink, especially as they come out a little bit. But work them together. Don't have just a bunch of spaces. Whoops, getting a little bright there, but I'll soften. This will all soften out. Now this is sort of what I call, we have a dark base tone, and then this is actually kind of what we would call a mid-tone, actually, a mid-tone. And then we're going to have some highlights. And just vary the colors and the tones. But I always think soft. I'm going to darken some of these. I always just think softness. Now some you just indicate, you don't even make more than 1 or 2 petals, just like this. When they come out toward the end, they have these little buds on the end, and I'll show you in a minute how to make those. I just keep dipping down into the pink and yellow color, pink and purple colors.
Will we be able to watch the beginning if we come in?
Oh yeah,
Judy?
yeah. I guess you missed that. This will be posted on our Facebook page all the time. Yes.
From the beginning.
If you missed the live stream or part of it, it's always going to be up on our Facebook page. And there's we have a lot of things on our Facebook page because we've been on for, 3-4 years now. We post a lot of things, and if you scroll way down for like 6 months ago and a year ago and whatever, you can see some other live streams that Gary and I both did. And then on YouTube too. They'll always be on YouTube. So now I'm going to I have a small little mop. I like to use different sizes of mops to get into little areas. And I'm going to softly blend some of these together. I don't want them all to stand out. I'm going to pull them together very lightly, just tap it very, very lightly. Now I'm still not finished with these. There's several little stages. In fact,
when you blend edges, it makes the petals look like they're receding into the back.
Mm-hmm. And here we're just going to indicate over here that there's some little guys. and maybe up here a little bit. Now I'm going to go back with our ultramarine blue and add a little bit of the king's blue or just white to it. Maybe even a little turquoise. Just a nice pretty blue color. And I'm going to just dab in here, just in a few places. And you can actually do this before you do your petals. I forgot. But I do in the base tone along with the purple. I'll put blues also along with the purple in some areas. Because I get very bored with just one color. One color of a base tone, like just purple or just green. Now, before I put the highlights on some of those petals, I'm going to show you some little buds that come out on the end of these guys. I don't know if my brush is point. You have to have a nice pointed little round brush. Come to a nice point, dip into just a little medium.
What brand of paint do you use?
We have our own brand. It's made by Old Holland. It's a very high quality paint. Old Holland's been around for centuries, and professional painters use them. And they're made by our TV sponsor, Farbiflora. They're made at the Old Holland factory in Europe, but they're produced by Farbiflora. And we have those, and they're sold in kits. They are a little pricey. So there's other brands. We like Grumbacher pre-tested. Make sure it's pre-tested and not Academy. The Academy line is a student grade. I'm just pulling it. I have a loose hair on my brush. The Academy line of Grumbacher, either their acrylics or their oils, are the student grade, but they think students don't want good quality, but they are cheaper, and there's no pigment in them. That's what's bad. So you sacrifice pigment, but even if you're a beginner, use the best tools you can possibly afford. And so we like the pre-tested line of Grumbacher, not the Academy. We like M. Graham. We like Rembrandt. I love Rembrandt. And what else? Richardson's, Chava by Richardson's. Okay, I just picked up a dark pink or purple, or a medium dark. And watch closely up here. Can you get in real close, Gary?
I'm going to run over your foot.
Okay, I'll say ouch if you do. And I'm just going to use the tip of the brush, come out, and press. I hope you can all see that. I'll do some more. Tip of the brush, press. Tip of the brush, press. Tip of the brush, press. Is that cool or what? Some can be more pink than others. Some can be more purple than others. And I'll press, because they have these little dark buds on the end. But years ago, I started painting lilacs, and I just love to do them. I try to keep my hand out, but it's so hard. I can't, because at certain angles, we used to have that problem on TV too. Because, yeah. Don't need a whole bunch all over. Then, yeah, well, like I said, guys, you might have to pack a dinner or lunch. But back to doing TV shows, the 25 minutes we had to finish your painting. This is what's so great about not doing the TV, is because even though we reached a lot of people that way, we have more time, and I want to do more quality videos. Both of the other live streams, I did a blue poppies that I taught in 25 minutes on TV, but it took me about 2 hours to do it on my live stream. It's on our Facebook page, and I think it's on YouTube. And then I did a real intricate iris, purple and yellow iris. I think it took me 3 hours or something. But I don't want to do quickie 25-minute or 45-minute. I don't want to do 45-minute videos or whatever. Okay, so now I'm picking up just white. See that? See that pop? Just white. And again, it's still going to pick up. And I'm not using any medium. Dry paint sticks to wet paint. Dry paint sticks to thin undercoat. All these paints were thin. The consistency was not thin, but what should I say? Not thick. Yeah, not thick paint. Pretty thin for base tones, and then when you put the highlights on, you don't use much medium. Here's, I'm going to turn a couple to the side and make them stand out a little bit more. So you don't want these guys to be bright all over. Yeah. Now, even the 2 hours or 3 hours that I take on this is not going to, be perfected, because when I did the original, I probably spent about 5 hours on it. So, and then maybe just a few little lights over here.
Everybody wants instant results.
Yeah, it's.
This is not fast food painting.
We used to say in class, just drop your painting off at the fast food window outside of the studio and we'll correct them all. And then you can come back after class at 4 o'clock and pick them up. And they'll be finished. Some people would say, I don't want to work that hard, so just you do it. Yeah. You do it for us.
I paid my money.
Okay, now if you have to sneak some more darks in, if you've lost some of your darks, I might have in this area, just go back, put some more in, and then sometimes you have to go and put some more petals in over that, your light petals. But yeah, I want to keep it really dark in here.
Gail says, looking gorgeous.
And okay, maybe bring some up here a little bit. All right, well, you can fiddle around with that as much as you want. And then let's get at our daisies. Yep, because we still got a little more to do on that vase too. And we got other stuff to put in here.
It's a little heavier on the right now, which it should be.
Yeah, but it will come out a little more here when I get my daisies and leaves, but it's leaning a little more this way.
We'll put that in.
You don't want it
go to on the other side and do the same thing.
Yeah, don't want it perfectly balanced. It's called asymmetrical. Asymmetrical design is opposite of symmetrical.
I'm calling out for kids.
Shush. Okay, I have no room to mix. I'm just taking straight white, have to put the centers in. Have to put the centers in the daisies first. I'm going to take crimson, not crimson, sienna with just a touch of black. And let's put a little half center in there. And just maybe a little bit peeking there. You don't want them all the same. They're going to be turned in different directions. Some you're going to show a lot more center than others. Oop. And maybe one here. Maybe here. Just a dab. See, they're different sizes. Maybe a little bit here. And maybe a little here. Okay, then I'm going to take, let's take our little pointed brush with some orange and yellow, and let's dab some of that, especially on these main ones. They have a kind of a little fuzzy center. Maybe a little here. And just a little. See, some are more pronounced than others. Don't want them all looking the same. Just really loose. Whew. That's good. Now see, that's a cheap brush. I wiped it through my paper towel and everything came with it. That happened to Gary, on TV. That was so funny. And then we dropped our brushes and we don't like to edit and stop and start, so we would just keep rolling the cameras. Rolling. This is yellow and white. And we would just keep rolling the camera when he'd drop his brush or whatever. And One time we had to stop, though very seldom in the 400 and something shows, we had to stop because one of the big lights, studio lights, fell off the ceiling while we were taping. Good thing it didn't fall on us. So you see, I didn't highlight every single. I'm going to put some more dark in here. Everyone evenly. See that? Okay, now we'll do our petals. I'm going to use the filbert. This is kind of a medium size. Filberts come in all different sizes, just like flats do. They come in 3s, 4s, 8s, 10s, 12s. We usually use 10s and 12s size. This is probably about a 12. Unless you're doing a really big painting, then you have to adjust. But I would use a 16 maybe filbert if I was doing very large sunflower petals or something. Okay, now I'm using the paint dry, little or no medium. I'm going to dip into my fast dryer though, just a dot of it. That fast dryer I told you about in the beginning. Okay, so let's start out with this guy. We're going to have some petals shooting up over the center. Push down, lift up, push down, lift up. And they're headed sort of to a point in this area here. Now it's hard for me to do them slow because they get really tight, but I'll see what I can do. Push and lift, drag them in toward a center point sort of. And they're going to pick up some of those other colors. And these ones are flopping down. And they sort of get foreshortened right across the center area where they switch from going up and down. They kind of just go across. It's called foreshortened. Now this one is just about our main star. It's the most pronounced. And I'm going to get to a little more of the blue added into that because I don't want this whole thing. I want some of it to be shaded. That's another common mistake is people will try to make everything too light or too bright and they don't put any shading in it. Now if you want little points on the end of your daisies, some have more rounded points, some have rounded petals, some have pointed. Just turn the brush on its edge, on the chiseled edge, and you get little points. And maybe we'll just hit a little catch light on the top of some of those petals where they're shadowed. Little catch light. Now sometimes you have to go and do these, let these daisies set up and then do them again because they're picking up a lot of the wet paint from underneath. So once they set up a little, you can go back and highlight again. Okay, I'm going to do some of these a lot faster. This one's facing up because we still have some ways to go on this painting. I'm using that push down, lift up stroke all the time. Push down, lift up. My cat is not liking me in here, and he's scratching at the door. You might hear that. He gets very, very jealous when I'm in here, and especially during class, and he has to stay out. He's not happy. I'm going to show a little more center in that one. Daddy's going to have to get up and give him more treats in a little while. Okay, let's go on to another one. And out here, I'm just going to show, you don't have to show the whole daisy, just a hint peeking out behind. Again, you don't want here a daisy, here a daisy, here a daisy, here a daisy, and have even spaces. I see in people when they paint their bouquets, they don't overlap any of the flowers. If you buy a bunch of flowers at the store or pick flowers from your garden or whatever, they touch each other. When they're plunked in a vase, they overlap and they touch each other. I'm going to darken this one a little bit more, just have a hint of light on the back. So they don't just all, go up to one another and go, whoa, I better stop. I don't want to crash into that flower. Gary's going to get up from the camera and go out and give our cat some treats to satisfy him so he won't bug me. Now in here, we're going to not get quite so white. I'm going to let that blend in to what's underneath a little bit more. Maybe just leave most of it in shadow. And if it's not dark enough, we can even shadow it some more in here. Maybe we want more shadow out here. Shadows and highlights are what make things three-dimensional. You're working on a one-dimensional surface, and how do you make something look two- or three-dimensional? Well, it's all done with shadows and highlights. It's all done with shadows and highlights, and that's all it is, to make things more dimensional. And when I don't want something really white, I don't press down like out here. I'll just, well, it's too white, but wipe most of the paint off my brush and just use very light pressure. Maybe go back. If it's too light, go back to your blue. And if you want something much lighter, or just show up more, then use more pressure on your strokes on your brush. Now you've got much more time that you can work on yours. Much more time. And you can take your time, which is so nice when you're at home. You don't have to do this all in one sitting. If it's dry underneath, if your background's already dry and you want to let it go for a couple days and can't get back to your painting, people say, well, how do you get back into it? Well, you just sometimes have to wet the surrounding area again, like say your background right around here, and then put your flowers in, and then they'll go in nice and soft. I'm going to do these very fast. They're all headed toward a center point. Still pressing down and lifting up. Actually, I've got this one a lot bigger than the original I'm looking at, but we'll just go with it. Again, it's turned to the side. I don't know, people seem to have a lot of trouble with daisies. One of the mistakes would be to not make enough petals, like they would make a petal here, and a petal here, and a petal here, and a petal here. But you see, they have a lot of petals. Some of those double daisies, really beautiful. I had a big white bush of them, huge, in Oregon. Everything grew in Oregon, so beautiful. And oh my gosh, they had so many petals on them. Big fluffy daisies. They hardly even looked like daisies. I'm going to calm down these back here. So I want that more in shadow. So just keep them soft. And again, if you're working on them and you don't get your petals as highlighted as you want the first time, then just let them set up a few hours, or just go back like the next day and highlight them more with very dry white. I'm going to leave this one completely in shadow. I'm going to shadow down this one too, a couple of them. This one.
Patricia says your painting is simply gorgeous.
Well, not quite yet, Patricia, but it will be.
North Carolina.
Now, the next thing I would do is take and destroy some of this. And that's where I very, very lightly hit some of these guys that are in the background, blend some of them right out into the background, so they're barely there, and just get rid of some of these hard edges. Very important to keep it soft. Maybe some of these, even these highlighted ones, I would knock down a little bit. These are a bit hard looking for my taste, but we don't have time to play with it. Yep, I'm going to take a look at it. Once you get it all in, and always it's a good idea to stand back on your stand back from your painting every hour or so. I don't have the opportunity to do that, but and again, those points, if you want some of those little points, use the edge of your brush very lightly, the pointed edge of the filbert, and then sweep it in. And you get some nice little, you can even go in with a little round brush and play around with some of the points. You just don't want them all over the place. But it's fun to do them. Here and there and everywhere.
Gail's saying she's learned so much.
Okay, so it's still, now these little lilacs, I'm looking at the fake ones. Well, they sort of have a little center. I used to put yellow-green centers in them, but you can do whatever you want. You can put a little dark green center or darker purple center. They look, these faux ones that I have are kind of a dark purple center, but I kind of like a green. I'm just going to pick up a medium shade of green and dab in here. Or I've done, and you don't want to do it in all of them. You definitely don't want to do it in all of them. Just in a couple of the main ones. And now let's get some leaves in here. Leaves are pretty simple. You can use your flat brush or again the filbert. We still have a little more to do to the base. This is going to be a long video. That's why I say just look at it once or twice and then start painting with it.
People died.
Some died. Oh no, some passed away.
Yeah, they passed away. You've been here so long.
Oh, I know. There's so much in this. I'm going to add a couple more petals up in here. There's so much in this painting that, you know, there's a lot of elements in here. A lot. So the little wiggle leaves, I'm just going to start out with, well, yeah, that's your name that you named them back in the 50s.
He said I never named them that. It was you know who.
So anyway, that Gary did name these Wiggle because it's because you because of the stroke. I'll show you in a second here. I'm loading up my brush with a little sienna and some sap green, or you could use a little bit of the chrome oxide green or the light green, doesn't matter. Okay, so first of all we want to get some, lilacs have little leaves, kind of little, but I'm going to use, just see how skinny, if you don't press down on the edge of your brush, this is that filbert, if you use just a very light stroke, you can get a very thin little stem, very thin. See that? So now I'm just going to press down, wiggle, up to the center and out. Press down, wiggle, up and out. Press down, wiggle, up and out. And you can change your color. Some might be lighter, some might be darker. Let's change. I added a little bit of lighter color. See that? Just wiggle, wiggle up and out. And again, when you don't make them quite so slowly as I'm trying to show you, they come out a little bit more natural. So I'll just plunk around and get some more. Now we'll have to set these back in to the lilacs in a minute. We'll set them back in. And I always make stems curved, 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 not just straight. And don't have them just floating, a leaf and then a leaf and then a leaf. Some people I see, they don't put the stem in, which is rather weird to me, but because they're just floating. And where else? Some places you might want a little bit more sienna in the paint. And let's do some little ones up here. Let's make some stems. I'm going to do these quite fast. Go right over the daisy maybe in some places. Right over the daisy. And in between the daisies. Let's get a really light one.
Maybe wants to know if we make DVDs of our live streams.
DVDs of the live stream?
Hmm?
No.
Maybe.
You never know. Maybe. We make DVDs of other things, but not of the live streams. Maybe plunk some green around in here. And then, oh, we have some stuff hanging down here, so why don't we just put some leaves? Why don't we make more, kind of a daisy leaf? I don't have this in the original. Kind of a daisy leaf. They're kind of jagged. I fill in the center, and then I'm going to just make a little jagged leaf. I don't know if you can see that because all that dark green underneath there. Let's see if I can do the other side. I don't know if that's going to show because I had green underneath it.
Sure.
They're kind of real jaggedy leaves. I'm just plunking them in really fast here. And then now we can use I'll show you, we can use our flat brush instead of just the filbert.
Another lady wants to know if we could catch up. I missed the beginning.
Again, this will be posted on our Facebook page indefinitely, and you can see all of it. Wiggle, wiggle, up and out. Wiggle, wiggle, up and out. See that? That's the Jenkins wiggle, wiggle leaf.
Yeah, you learned that from somebody else.
Well, if they did it before the 1970s, but no, this was Gary developed his whole style of painting out of art school. He didn't learn his style in the 4 years of art school. It's a really well-known art college in Sarasota, Florida. It's 4 years of art school. They didn't teach him a style, though. They taught composition, design, color. They don't even let you use a paintbrush for about the first 2 years. You have to draw in charcoal and learn composition and design and all kinds of things before you start with color. I'm going to show you. I'm going to take the edge of this brush and I'm going to come up here. Oh no, is my hand in the way? And I'm going to make, just by pressing down a tiny bit on those wiggle wiggle leaves, and I'm going to make some real little guys. I got an extra hair in there helping me out. Make some real little guys. As your bouquet comes out, you want things to get lighter and more delicate. You could end up, you could put some in here, and as it comes out, you don't want, oops, it's not cooperating. You don't want it so heavy out on the outer edges. Just little stuff. Now let's get some more out here to kind of balance with the other side. You can double load your brush a little by putting a little orange or yellow on one side. Let's try it and see if it works. And a little green on the other side. See that? I don't know if that shows. just a little bit of orange I've got there. Let's try that again. Let's bring one out like that. See that? Now we are going to be bringing, I don't want to plunk leaves around everywhere. We've got other stuff to go in here. I'm going to go back in with our dark purple with the dark blue mixed into it and get some, and just go into this green area a little bit and start. I don't want it to go from green to purple all of a sudden. Now see, you can take the edge of your brush. If you don't like the shape of a flower, you can just take the edge of your brush and paint into the petals. Cut into them in between. And you can do that anywhere you want. Or if you want some more darks in between certain flowers, you can do the same thing. And that's painting the negative space. And then sometimes you can just leave it that way, or you can go and bring some of your petals out again. I'll show you what I mean by that. You can go and bring some of your petals out over where you cut into. So then we've got, let's see what else, yeah. There's these weed things that you get in bouquets in the store. They put them in your bouquet to make your bouquet look full. So you think you're getting more than you really are when you buy your bouquet. And they're these long weed things. And I'm just going to start out with kind of a dark or a medium tone green, any of your green. And they're fillers, and is what they are. And they're just, this got a little phthalo green. I'm going to back off and go more to the sap green in there, let's see, with maybe some sienna in it. That's okay, the blue-green's kind of pretty. Phthalo, remember, is very blue. I'm going to go right over the flower. Now this is just a base tone, and we've got some coming out here. Sometimes they curl around, but they're these long filler things that they put in. Now you could make ferns out of here. I don't have time to show you today, but you could make ferns out of those if you want. Go into some of that more blue-green. And we have some more here. And this sets the flowers back a little bit. I'm using just the tip of the brush. And the paint has to be like an ink consistency, very, very thin to do this. So you use a lot of medium with your paint. And we do have another flower down here. I want to get in before I forget it. It's way down here. Let's see. Let's bring it right over this one, and we'll curve it and aim it out and then press. And we want the back side of it in that shadow color that we were using, that blue-gray color. And again, it's turned, this little guy is turned upside down, so you don't want to make it round or like it's facing right at you.
Renee says this is one awesome painting. Great lesson.
Oh. There's a lot of learning on this, but you know, you could take bits and pieces of this and just put them in a painting and make your painting a lot simpler. And then I'm putting a front side on it, so the back side is shadow, and then we're putting the front side where it's spilled over, is that a word? Boy, is my palette ever dirty. It is really dirty. And let's see. Oh, we want to put a little calyx since it's tipped over like that. You would show a little bit of a calyx, and it's just like this. Study real flowers. If you grow flowers, some of you are lucky enough to live in parts of the country where you have beautiful gardens. I've seen them on Facebook, and you have no excuse to get some beautiful, beautiful reference material from your own gardens. Study real flowers so you know what they look like. I see people on Facebook, they paint flowers and they say, I don't know what kind of flower this is, or I don't know what this looks like, I'm just making it up. And well, okay, not really good. You need reference material. I'm making some little leaves here off the stem. You need good reference, whether it's working from photos. We have to rely on working from our photos. In the past, I had beautiful, beautiful gardens, but I took, luckily, 30 years of beautiful photos, and so that was really helpful. So I can, rely on that. Okay, now let's see. We have some light green ones, so we'll go into our phthalo yellow green, maybe some ochre, and maybe a little white. And we've got some really light guys coming up here, right over this daisy a little bit. This is where you start to get into the layers, your layers of color. You start with your darks and then end up with your lights. If it's not light enough, put some yellow into it, and maybe a little more white. And coming up maybe here. Make sure everything is headed into your vase. It's another common mistake. People will have flowers and they'll be headed, the stems will be headed out here somewhere, and they can't possibly be that way because they're not anchored into the vase.
Kate, her pack.
Oh my.
Okay.
Hi, Kay. And maybe up here, maybe some little guys shooting through here. And we have another nice big one right here, wrapping around. Now you could get in here with your little brush. Actually, I should leave that because we got to do a little on our vase. You could do this with your little brush. Make these stems on your flowers. But now when they go down into the vase, they're going to be shadowed a little more. They're not all going to be these bright stems sticking out. Maybe there's a whole bunch of stems in here coming out. But they're darker, not a bunch of light stems going down. Now we've got some twigs to put in here and some little teeny blue accents, but I'm going to get on that vase real quick. Now since this is why I put it in. I knew this would be a long lesson. This is why I based it in first with our oil paint, because I knew it would take a long time. So I'm going to go through this very fast. We have our dark with our black and our greens, and then a little bit of turquoise and green here. And I'm just going to go and accent a little. I'm going to add more turquoise and white and maybe some phthalo. Phthalo actually is very turquoise. If you add white to phthalo or viridian green, you're going to get a really pretty turquoise color. Let's see if we can get, yeah, okay, that looks bright now. But now remember, this is almost dry. I did it a couple days ago. You might be working on dark green where it's real wet, so it would blend easier for you. But this is dry. But I'm going to use my finger to. I want to kind of highlight this one side a little bit. But yeah, I knew this was going to be not a hard, well, it's a little hard, huh? Detailed. A little bit over here. A long lesson. So this has to be put in very soft. This is a secondary light over here. Now, since this is dry, that light didn't blend into my vase all that well, so I'm going to take a little bit of the green, darker green. And we'll darken down this other side a little bit again with some of our dark. As it goes around the other side, it's going to get a little darker. Now, I could use my blender brush. I could get in here if I had time to just mess with it and use my blender brush, but it's faster just to do. I'm looking in my monitor and this vase looks very crooked, but it's not, because I showed you at the beginning how to get a symmetrical vase. So it's pretty straight, it's pretty symmetrical, even though I'm sorry that we have to have the camera at an angle, and so it doesn't look too symmetrical. And down here I'm going to go just a little bit and put some of that. Now remember, I said round the bottom of your vase off a little bit. Round it off. I'm going to get in here with my little teeny blender. Oops, my blender's got white on it, my little blender. See if I can't smear that around. Okay, then we've got a little bit of a catch light or accent light with our pink coming from here, and we're going to put that on. I'm going to leave it set for a minute. Whoops, put it on and it disappears. I'm putting it on dry. I don't know if that's going to end up showing up or not. And then work it into the rest of the vase. So even on a dark side, you're going to have a little bit of a light. And then maybe some of the yellow color, picking up some of the yellow. Now my vase on this side is not real nice against the background because I didn't take time to, I'll take a little time here to fix it up, but you got more time than I do. And then on this side we'll put some yellow and white. Maybe a little bit of the orangey color. Let's see if we can blend it with this. These are just little reflections coming from the background. And then we've got some stronger reflections. Yellow with white, a little drier. And we'll put a few right there. Just hit it, get out, hit it, and get out. And then I'm going to soften those in a little bit. And then we've got some dry white. Dry white. Now don't just make skinny little streaks all over. Some of them stand out more than others. Soften them in. And then we can take dry white again on the little brush and maybe accent some more areas a little bit more. Maybe cross blend it a little. If you want, you can add maybe just a little bit more turquoise in the middle here. Turquoisey green color. Now I want to show you that before we finish the flowers and add a touch more to the background. I want to show you the gold trim on this. Gold trim always mystifies people, but it's really very simple. And we don't use, a lot of people say, do you use gold metallic? I can't believe this brush. It keeps coming off. The hair keeps coming off the furl. Where's my other brush? A lot of people say, do you use gold metallic paint to do this? And nope, we don't. I'm going to have to fill in. I'm starting out with sienna with the little brush. And a little bit over here. So as it's going back around, it's going into shadow. Maybe I'll pick up some green and, whoops, got to fill that in there. Well, I didn't quite get my green in my vase. Okay. And then I go into an orange or a yellow and orange mixed together. And a little bit on this side. And then yellow, just light yellow. I'm shaking a little bit when you get into something detailed like this. And on the high spots here, a little bit of yellow. And when it dips down, go back into your darker color, your maybe orange and sienna. And I gotta fill in that white there, that white area there, just with the inside of the vase. Now that's not the entire thing, that's almost. And I'm going into the light yellow, or cad yellow light, with white, very dry, very, very dry. And I'm going to tap on some very light color right there. You can even put a little red light in here too. And the same thing around the bottom. I'm going to do this very fast, so forgive me, it's going to be a little sloppy. Now this is where, if your vase isn't round on the bottom, you can round it out.
You're racing with the sun.
Racing with the clock.
See the sun on the...
Oh, I got sun on my canvas, huh? Well, what are we going to do about that? We have skylights in our studio, and and the sun comes in. I didn't realize it would be coming in. This side will keep mostly in shadow there. Well, I don't know. We're going to have to deal with it because oh boy. I don't know, and get really light yellow right here where it's more highlighted on that side. Get the really, really light yellow. So it's just dark, the siennas, then maybe some red orange, and then some orange, and then very light dry yellow. See that? It's cool, huh? And then, you know, I would go back, I'll just do a little here, and I would trim this up here and make it, you know, a little neater. But that's basically the idea for that. And we have, where's my filbert? We have some little blue guys. Either use your turquoise or your, what is that color? King's blue, or mixed together, whatever, with a little white. And I'm using the side of the filbert, and I'm just going to sneak some little things. What do you call these things in here? Things. I might add a little dark blue to that. Yeah, it's color.
Sparkle.
Yeah. I'm just tapping on, and it's all this, it's so great. You can go to the store. Our market here, our Safeway, has tons of bouquets of flowers already made up.
Angel.
And they have all this really, yeah, they have go right up over your flowers. They have all this neat filler, and you can buy the filler separately, actually. Don't want just two. Let's do another one in here. And they have all this neat filler stuff that you can buy to put into your flowers. Get some dark ones going down into the, I just messed up my little edge. Go back and touch that up. Yep, I was waiting to finish the base a little bit. So just bring a stem around. And some light green to make it show up. There's
from Germany, Petra.
Yeah. And that, here again is that little wiggle leaf.
That's the one that somebody else invented.
And we'll make it turn a little that way. Maybe bring one around here. And then we can get a little tiny one coming down. And let's see, I'm going to go and do some more of these little weeds. Filler things. And let's see. Now we've got some twigs in here. Some neat little twigs, and I'll show you how to make those. I'm going to take some sienna, just probably sienna, and kind of thin paint, kind of a lot of medium, kind of like an inconsistency. And we're going to make some little twigs, because a lot of times if you're making your own bouquet, you'll add these. We go outside and just pick branches and bared twigs sometimes, and add to the flowers. Just don't make a bunch of snaky things. They're angular. Twigs, like if you pick them off of a bush, or especially branches of a tree, they have little angles, and I'm just barely pressing down on the tip. And then they taper off at the end, and they get very, very light at the end and very airy. And they're thicker at the base, especially if you've picked them off of a tree. Just like a tree grows, it's thicker at the base of where it comes off the trunk. The branches are thicker, and then they get skinny as they come out. And let's see, let's put another one here. Don't be afraid to layer. Like I said many times, just go right over something else. Don't be afraid to layer.
What you do last is the first thing
Yeah,
people see.
it is. That's true.
You have to repeat it. They can't.
Yeah, what Gary was saying is what you put on your painting last is actually the first thing people see. And we have another big one up here. So you have to do a good job on these. Really important. So you see, they're not just a bunch of snaky. They're curved, of course, in some places. You don't want them all straight, but you don't want them real stiff looking either, but not snaky either. So I'd play around with these a lot more, but I don't want to take too much time on them. Remember, they get very, very fine on the tips. They taper off, very delicate, and thicker at the base of them. Heavier and thicker. And I went on the original and I took some light orangey color and just highlighted some of them, but I don't know if you'll be able to see them on camera, but on this camera, but I went and just took some light orange and put a little bit of highlight on some of them, yellow orange. But that's if, you know, and it's good if yours come out too dark to do that. And let's see, okay, we're gonna get on that drape and then that'll go very fast. So down here, this is the dry acrylic, and then I went in with a little darker black with some mauve in it down here. And then we'll just take a light gray that, oh, what is it called? Getting, so I can't remember what I'm thinking. Can't think what I'm remembering. What is it? Oh, what is this color? Ice blue. Ice blue. Okay. I'm going to put this up on the lip and hopefully it doesn't fall. And we're going to start blocking in. This isn't pure white. And it's a little wet down here, but basically a lot of it's dry where I had the acrylic. So I'm going to put a little bit of medium into it to make it spread. Let me get a little darker. I'm going to leave it pretty much dark under the vase. Maybe a little dark here. Oop. Doesn't quite show. And I want to keep it dark. This is the black and the purple again out in this area.
Use some of that yellow.
Oh yeah, I will. And again, try not to make it look like white snow-covered mountains. I've seen that on the drapes that we put on our online class, and I had to scold a couple people because they had perfect little white. And I'm guilty of that too. Believe me, I'm guilty. You don't want it to look. Now, I've got my drape actually coming up over this a little bit on my original, so it cuts that corner off a little. And then it comes up behind the vase a little bit. We collect little remnants of fabric, so when we set up still lifes, then we've got all this fabric that we can put on. Just keep that edge soft and keep losing my darks over here. I want it very dark. Very, very dark. Now again, I would take so much more time with this if I was really, you know, doing the original like I did the original. I took more time. Bring this up around here. Connect it. And then we'll go into just pretty much white and hit. And this is another area where you may have to let it set up a while to get your highlights on. And you could really do a number on this and really lay out a drape, a white cloth or whatever, and put some really neato shadows and highlights on it. but I can't take that time today. The main thing is keep it soft. Could even add a little bit of greenish color in here. Greenish. Kind of lost all my dark underneath, didn't I? Go back and put that in. Ooh, there it goes again. It's not cooperating. Put a little green with the black. So I'm not going to take much more time with this because it's just a suggestion. Should I, oh, and we've got some little petals dropped down from the lilacs that you can add. Just some little loose guys, just a little suggestion of them. Now getting back to the background, I have to get a clean finger. We've got these little orbs in here, and we can make some of those. Just using my finger. I'm going to soften them out, just very lightly, not a lot of paint. Maybe some are just teeny. Some people like orbs and some people don't, but that's okay. Maybe a couple over here. And let's see, where's my little, you can make a few with, I don't know if that's going to show up. You can make a few with a little brush. And if they're stand out too much, just soften them down. Where is my other, there it is. Soften them down a little into the background so they sort of are just barely there. And then I would, at this stage, I would go back and just really play with this background, but I'm not going to do too much right now. But I would see where I want brighter colors, you know, maybe some brighter accents or whatever. And you'd have to just like, you know, stand back and look at yours and see what you got going and play around with it. So should we put the little flower on the vase?
Better get it.
Oh, okay.
The sun is coming.
Oh no, I'm gonna, okay, so like I said, you could sketch a flower on if you want. This was a little painted glass vase and had a little lily flower on it. So I'll see.
Leave it like it is.
I'll see if I can sketch this somewhat here. I'm just going to really quick do a little, had like a little white lily on it. So I'm not going to do a whole lot back here. And we've got a little bit of dark crimson in the center. Actually you could paint your flower white. Once you get your flower drawn on, Then just take a little brush, either the little round or the little filbert, and just fill it in. It'd be better to leave the crimson out of there first. And this is going to pick up a lot of the green. You might want to wait until the green of your vase is finished. Although you don't need to put this on too bright. On the original vase we had, it wasn't painted real opaque white. You could kind of see the green of the glass vase through it. Because it was done very, very loosely, the actual painting. Highlight a little bit of it. And then where it goes down to the tips, it went more into shadow. And we've got some light green little stems. And there was a little design, just a little painted design you could get in with a skinny brush and do that. There was a little kind of just a, I don't know what you'd call design on it. But when I did the original, I spent quite a lot of time on this part. And I'm not going to, spend a lot of time on it today. Maybe some over here. There was just some little, it was very stylized. I don't know what you call the style, but, and there's going to be some little buds on here in a minute too. There was some little dots. I've seen on a lot of painted vases where they paint these little dots. Sometimes these little dots, these little accents are in gold, which would be pretty on here. And we've got a bud. Start out with some pink or crimson. And then highlight it. It's fun when you have time to piddle around, because I know you kids out there, you like to piddle with your paintings, and that's fun to do, and I like to do that too. Wish I had, 5 hours to work on this on camera, but I don't. So we'll go back and pull that crimson out.
Sometimes you could do a stage 1, stage...
I've seen people do that on YouTube now. They're doing segment 1, segment 2, and they're doing like an hour or so and doing it in 3 or 4 segments, which is interesting.
Because people get tired.
Yeah, well, when you're at home re-watching this, or watching it on YouTube, you don't have to watch the whole thing at once, because chances are you're not going to be sitting down and doing the whole painting at once either. So you can just do it in stages. I'm going to put a little pink on here and draw some veins out down here on this. Veins, yeah, veins, that's what they're called on the petal. But yeah, I'm just really doing this fast. It's not too neat looking. And and there's some long little stamens on here too. Long little yellow or yellow-orange. They have these little dots on the end. Yeah, my little guy here is pretty sloppy. But I just wanted to do it because I wanted to show you about how to do it. So that gives you the idea, but yours at home is going to be much, much neater. I know that.
Well, people are thanking you for taking your time and showing them the right way to do these paintings.
Yeah. Now, I would, it's a little wet. I don't know if I could do it. After you get your flower in the way you like it, I would soften some of the edges very lightly. Maybe I could do it a little. I just smeared it. Yeah. Yeah, I would take my blender and soften it in because that's important. You don't want it, you want it to look like it's part of the vase. You want it to look like, Wait a second, Gary's talking to me and I don't know what he's saying, so wait, I can't look.
Strong light hit right there.
Yeah, you want it to look like it's part of the vase, and you could run your highlights like I'll do it.
But the flower has to be dry.
Yeah.
Don't try to highlight it. You'll smear it.
Run some highlights over it and set it back in. I know, I'm messing it up. Oh.
You do it while it's wet.
Yeah. I want to just soften it. And then he wants a stronger highlight somewhere here.
Just pull it across.
Yes, dear. Well, I just lost the strong highlight.
That's fine.
Okay. You guys get the idea. You don't want to overdo it like I just did.
Paintings you want to show.
Yeah. Okay. Have I got everything in?
Yay.
Okay, I could have done a lot more to this background and to this drape and done it a lot neater, but basically that's it. And I don't know about you, but I'm all worn out.
Me too.
Oh my. But basically, let's go back to the original real quick and show them that, like what it's supposed to look like. That one's a little neater, and I did a little more flowy stuff in the background. But basically, I just wanted to show you the technique of everything. I would go in and shadow my daisies a little bit more. Actually, these daisies are shadowed, but on my monitor, they're looking like it's blowing out, and they're all quite light, but they are shadowed more on certain sides. But I wanted to show you the vase and the flower on the vase and the gold trim and the leaves and the this and the that. And so there's a lot in this painting. So you guys, I know you can do it, but just do it in stages. Or like I said, just take parts of this painting and put them in your own painting, make up your own vase, but mainly referenced. I can't impress enough for you to use reference, and don't just do it out of your head when you don't even know what the vase looks like or the flowers look like or the landscape looks like. It's not good. It's not good. So use reference. It's so important. Okay, I want to just say a couple things for those of you that are new to us, and for those of you that want to turn me off. I'll say thank you for joining me, and I really had a great time doing this, and I really appreciate you all, and keep painting. And for those of you that have heard this before about our online class, I want to show you some of the paintings that we did and our new videos. I want to show you the paintings, and the rest of you can just say goodbye, and I'll say goodbye and thank you. And anyway, for those of you that want to stay with me for a minute, those of you that are new to us, I'm going to try to do this as delicate, but not awkward as possible. Gary and I just did 2 new videos, and they're a snowy owl. Gary's is a snowy owl, and mine is the double roosters. And we have these roosters, they're real roosters that we bought from a taxidermist. So I use those as reference, and then he had a photo for his owl that he used for reference. But these are 2 new videos, and you can go to our website, jenkinsartstudio.com, and you can read about the videos. They have patterns come with them, photos, supply list, and you can buy one or at a special price buy both videos, and they are 3 to 4 hours long, very detailed, just like I did this painting, very, very detailed. And then there's a free one. So here's the picture of the, oops, it's the sun's on it. Oh, how are we gonna, there's my skylight sun coming through. There's the snowy owl. He's beautiful. Gary went outside and picked some of our pine boughs off our pine trees in the backyard and made that up, made that background up. Sorry for the sun over here. It's sun from my skylights coming in now. Whoops. But that's a beautiful snowy owl. That's one video. Or I should say DVD. These are DVDs. And again, you can buy one or both of these at a special price. And this is my double rooster. People have been asking me to do Roberto and his friend for a long time. And these do come with patterns. And you can read about them and order them off our website. And this was fun to do with all the straw and everything and all the soft blended colors in the background. And we used, like I say, our real roosters for reference. And then, if you purchase both of those together, Gary did a bonus, a free bonus. Those are 1824. They're patterned for 1824s. And this one's a 12 by 12, and I just got white paint all over him. And this is a pretty egret painting that he gives you as a bonus if you purchase both of those other DVDs at one time. And this is very easy to paint, very simple. And that comes with a pattern also. And now we have, those are our two newest videos, DVDs rather. And then we have our online course, and you can read all about that on our e-course. It's available worldwide. And I'm going to show you for the first time on camera all the paintings. It does show you, can you back up a little with the camera? It does show you on our website little pictures of these, but I wanted to show you, here we go. How can I turn it? Okay. See that? Isn't that pretty? And we set these up and shined a light on them and set them up in our studio and used our antique little teapots and antique china painted vases I collected. This is tea roses, and that is a Gary painting. And this one is mine. These have a lot in them. And this is old-fashioned roses, cabbage roses. And this is mine. It has a lot of that gold trim on a clear glass vase and a crystal candle holder. And that one had a lot of detail in it, just like today's painting. Again, these are between 2 and 4 hour long videos, the online. And you get 8 of them. 8 of them in the online course. And here's a sunflower. This one is by Gary in an old speckleware tin pot. Beautiful with the lemons. And here is the sunflower. Oh, excuse me. These are the poppies. This is the well-known Jenkins poppy that I said that he developed way back in the 60s. He designed this poppy and taught it all over everywhere and had gallery paintings of this in galleries of these poppies. And this was his style that he originated way back in the 60s and did many of these in classes and TV for years and years and years. And it's known as the Jenkins poppy. And this is a beautiful white iris in one of our little antique painted vases. And we go through these paintings very, very slow. And for this online course, we had a professional videographer with his lights and cameras and everything come into our studio. And we spent months preparing this course, but he spent weeks filming this for us for the online course. And this is these beautiful tiger lilies, or I'm not sure if they're tiger lilies. I forget what they call these, stargazer. And I grew these in my yard in Nevada, and they were really beautiful. And that was in a ceramic pot. And that's it. And then we've got This is an antique silver. How to paint, very loosely paint silver. Whoops. A silver coffee pot with hydrangeas and small flowers. And now these are all in our online course. And there's a big description of the online course on our website. When you order the course, you'll have availability to it immediately. And this one is beautiful with the dark background and the roses and the grapes in the brass pot. That's one of my favorites. It's really pretty. And I think that's it. And a bonus on the online course, I did a 4-hour long technique video that goes with the online course. And it had different elements in that video of the different things that we had in the paintings, like how to paint the rose, how to paint the poppies, the small flowers, how to paint the grapes, how to paint the foliage. That was an extra bonus. Besides the 8 videos, it was an extra of a 4-hour long technique video that I go very slowly through. So anyway, this video I did today will be posted on our Facebook page indefinitely, and you can look at that and go back a few months back and look at some more of our live streams. And we also have lots of things on YouTube, and these will be posted eventually on YouTube too, the live stream demos along with some of our TV shows. So when you get onto YouTube, please give us a like, share, join, subscribe, do everything you can do on our page, either Catherine Jenkins or Gary Jenkins on YouTube, and share this with your friends as much as you can. We'd appreciate it. And again, our website is jenkinsartstudio.com. And keep following us on Facebook and YouTube. And I hope to see you soon again for another live stream. When I get time, I'll try and do another one. So thank you, everybody. I sure enjoyed doing this for you. And thank you, my little honey, for doing the camera work. And keep on painting, you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.